Hello, dear listeners. I do apologise for the lateness of this episode. Severe technical issues, entirely my fault. Billy's in the clear. But we were able to salvage the backup record, polish it up a bit, and hopefully the quality is not too bad. So enjoy the episode. And again, sorry we're late.
The following podcast contains spoilers and words like piss, shit, and fuck. We watch the thing. We watch the thing. Well, Wimmy Wham Wham Wazzle, and welcome back to We Watch the Thing with B Dizzle and Dave. It's my new thing, mate. I'm starting a catchphrase. I haven't eaten all day. All I've had is a rum-aged stout.
What the fuck was that?
How you doing, mate? How you been? You are oh man, you are gone.
Am good.
I broke
good.
Dave, people.
I did not expect that. Whatever that was.
It's my new thing.
Let's not do that again. No, it's not your new thing. I'll let you keep B Dizzle that thing.
Oh.
No.
Oh, you sound just like Topher. He never used to let me have fun.
I'm fine with B Dizzle. I'm fine with your big calls. I'm not doing that thing every week.
Well, welcome back, and thank you for joining us here at We Watch the Thing, where we did indeed, I'm happy to report, I watched The Thing this week. I actually got to both of them.
Eventually.
So,
we should change the name. We eventually watch things.
So, let's get into our first film, which is brand new for us at least, cinematic release, Past Lives, which has been out in the rest of the world for a little while now. A 2023 American romantic drama film written and directed by Celine Song in her feature directorial debut. It stars Greta Lee, Teo Yu, and John Magoro, pretty much the only cast members, really. And what is it about, Dave?
It's about a lass and a fella who are best chums at the age of 12, and then she emigrates over to the States, and they don't completely lose track of one another. 12 years later, they cross paths again digitally.
Yep.
And then 12 years later, again, they cross paths in the flesh.
It's like one of those 7-Up documentaries where it checks in on them every 12 years.
And it just sort of tracks their, relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard to talk about this without mentioning the name Linklater, but we'll see how we go.
I was going to say, yes, it is very before sunsetty, before sunrisey. It's interesting how this movie is able to straddle that, though, how it both covers practically like a 30-year period in time, while at the same time very much having that feel of being like a slice of a day. So let's get straight into it, because people have been raving about this movie. I've heard more than one person call it the best film of the year.
I know.
You weren't expecting to like it.
No, well, the trailer didn't really wow me, but I shelved that because a number of people that I put a lot of stock in have said that it's a very, very good thing. So I did go and see it, and it's good. I don't think it's remotely the best film of the year or anything like that. I think it's very solid. It's very well made. I didn't regret 1 second of my time watching it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's perfect, and I don't think it's on the same level as Linklater's trilogy. Yeah, I'll say that.
I agree, actually. I liked this film a lot, and I wish that it hadn't been hyped for me, because I suspect that the hype really let me down, because I went into this being like, yes, people think this is the best of the year. I'm so excited. I liked it a lot, but I'm exactly the same as you.
I kept waiting for it to hit its stride and wow me, and it never wowed me.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think that it's a really, really, really good film. It's beautiful. It's touching. I love the chemistry between them. I think Greta Lee is fantastic in this film.
And that's part of my biggest problem with the film, is where the Before trilogy really works is it's even-handed. It's a 50-50. You've got two wonderful characters, and you're totally invested in their
Yeah.
interaction and relationship over the course of years. In this film, I was, I'll be generous and say 90% in the corner of one character
And I
over
think
the other.
and I don't think that's your mistake or anything. I think that is the way the film presents itself. Like, she is our protagonist. She is the character that we follow for the most of the film. And even the
Oh,
scenes where they're together,
100%.
you are seeing it from her point of view and her perspective, definitely. And I know what you're
Don't you
saying.
think that's a failing? I think this
I
type of
do, because I
story
think he's a
needs to
really
be even
strong.
handed.
I agree, especially I think this even more so than before, the before trilogy, where, they kind of meet accidentally. This isn't an accidental meeting. This
No.
guy loves her and has loved her for many, many, many years.
And that's really, in terms of the writing, his defining feature.
It's well, and
He is
that's true. Yeah.
that is all we get from him, is that he has spent from the age of 12, as far as we know, his entire life pining over this woman,
Yep.
to the point where he sort of stalked her out online through social media and found her again and messaged her
Yeah.
parents and hung around in chat groups and all the rest of it. And even once they reconnect, we still get nothing about him.
Look, that's true. That didn't bother me because I think, look, I'm a hopeless romantic. I actually find that kind of relatable. Like, I didn't hate that about the film, but I can see how you could definitely see that as a flaw, because you're right. You really don't get anything else about this guy, and he literally 95% of his dialogue is in Korean. Now, Greta Lee is not like that. She speaks quite a bit in English in the film, but
Yeah.
the little bits of English that he speaks are broken.
Oh, of course.
Um, and so I wonder if maybe that's why they didn't give us more of his personality, because it is hard with that language barrier. Uh,
I mean, it's tough. I mean, given that it's it is an Asian director, you would think that that wouldn't be the reason we don't get much of him.
mm,
I was hoping for a nice, even-handed. I kind of wanted this to be a bit like Your Name, where
yeah, yep,
we bounce back and forth between these two the
yep.
whole way through,
That,
and then they come together at the end. I don't care. I didn't need them to reconnect romantically. I like the fact that that's not what happened,
yeah,
but I think it needed to be even-handed, because it robbed so much of that denouement where we really. I mean, maybe I'm just a bastard, but I didn't give a shit about him at all.
and I,
There was nothing about his character that engaged me. The only things we see of him are he goes to a pub a couple of times with some mates, none of whom we even get a name for. We don't know anything about them, so it gives us nothing of him through them.
yeah,
We see one brief breakfast scene with his own family,
yeah,
where there is almost no dialogue. He has one sip of soup and that's it. But for her, I mean, I think she's just a better actress and a better written character. She
yeah.
zings with charisma. She's fantastic, and I loved her. But we know so much about her. We don't see a whole lot of her life, but we know so much. We know
Yeah,
about her passion for the theatre. We
yeah,
see some of her in directing or teaching students in the theatre through her interactions with Arthur, who will ultimately become her husband. We
yeah.
learn about her passions and even her family and her beliefs, everything. There is so much to this character that it dwarfs him.
I
And I
do
think that's a
agree.
major problem.
I think that to a certain extent, part of that is probably our problem, though, in that we went in expecting this to be before sunrise, and it's not. Like you said, it's written and directed by Celine Song, and to a certain extent, this is probably, I suspect, at least partially semi autobiographical. So, of
Okay.
course, it's from her perspective. I think that the crux of the movie really is not even the romantic relationship. To me, I think the point of the movie is more about how she feels as a foreigner. And he, more than even a romantic love, for her, is this connection to back home. And like she says it several times, like he's so Korean, like
Yeah.
he's so
Yeah.
Korean. And I think that that's probably more what the movie is about.
I think
And
that's a failing then, because that would have been an interesting film
yeah,
just as much as a rehash, or not a rehash, but a kind of a new take on the before trilogy
yeah,
style of things would have been a good film. This kind of flounders around in the middle and doesn't really commit one way or the other, and I think it fails in that sense. If it was, yep, this is the story of Nora, and there are a couple of guys in her life, but they're not really important. It's all about Nora and her moving away from her traditional Korean upbringing and her emigration to the States, and her rising up in the world of theater. That's a great story,
yeah.
but that's not what we got.
Mm.
I
Well,
don't think there was it didn't commit to that. It was still trying to be the before trilogy
yeah,
and not really committing to that either, because it wasn't 50-50 between her
yeah.
and hey, whatever his name is.
Let me get to
Forgotten
one
his name.
thing.
That's how forgettable he is.
Let me get to one thing that I did really like about the film, and you just mentioned his name is Arthur. I
Yeah.
actually really liked that dynamic, and I think that final kind of, I mean, I don't know whether it's a third or whether it's a quarter, but where they all go out for dinner, that
Yep.
works really well for me. And I think that you actually get even more of Arthur's personality than you do of. I agree.
Oh,
I forgot his name as
completely.
well,
Yeah.
but the way that he kind of struggles with it, but still wants to be supportive of her, I think is a really nice touch. And he even says it at
Yeah.
one point. You know, this is a great story, but if this was the story, I'd be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And he says it right there that we're getting that subversion here where that doesn't happen, and I actually really like that. I like that a lot.
No, I agree. I liked his character enormously, and I think uh, the portrayal was fantastic. And one of the best scenes in the film is the one without Nora, where she's, I mean,
Oh,
presumably gone
where
to
the
the
two of the
bathroom or
guys are
something,
sitting at the
and
bar.
it's the
Yeah,
two of them at the bar, and they both kind of, without saying it, they're acknowledging that they're in a love triangle, even though it's never been said through the whole film that that's actually what this is.
yeah,
But they're both wordlessly acknowledging it, and he says things along the lines of, "I'm really glad that you came.
yeah,
I think it was the right thing to do,
yeah,
and I'm glad that I met you."
yeah,
And
yeah.
they have this really touching exchange, which I
Yeah,
think
yeah, where
is
they,
what
and you and I have, I forget the Korean word, imyoung or
in
something.
Yun, yeah,
Yeah, we have imyoung too, and that's such a beautiful concept that it's not, everybody you meet is for a reason, and
mm.
everybody that you interact with is for a reason. I loved that concept, and I loved the way that that carried through the film. So yeah, overall I loved the film, but I do agree that I think that the weakness
It
is actually on the
needed to pick a
romantic side.
lane. I think it
Yeah,
would have been, for all that I genuinely loved my time with it. Um, I think it needed to pick a lane, and it could have been like a 5-star best of the year. I don't think it is.
yeah,
I think it just vacillated a little bit too much between those two types of story,
yeah.
to the point where it kind of, it fell short on both. Um, where it could have been great in one lane.
Yeah. I think Celine's song has definitely shown some strengths. I think that the
Oh,
direction of the film and
100%.
the look of the film is fantastic, and it's a weird word that we don't use often enough in film critique, but I think the atmosphere of the film is
Oh, it
perfect
had a
for the
wonderful tone that
it
was
does.
consistent
Yeah.
throughout.
Yeah.
Um, uh, really, really lovely. And I kept kind of going, "Oh no, you didn't do the thing that I wanted you to." There was, when she has her final. She's taken him down to wait for his Uber to send him on his way.
Yep.
We all know she's probably never going to see him again, regardless of the length of their relationship, whatever. They'll chat online for a while. He's never coming to America. She's probably never going to Seoul. this is the last time they'll see each other in the flesh. And they started to have an amazing moment where they flashed back to the brilliantly framed farewell
Oh,
as kids with the
yeah.
stairway and the
The
street.
statues. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And at that bit, right from the beginning of the film, they had an awesome farewell that was neither of us know what to say, so we're not going to say anything.
Yeah.
And he ends up saying bye, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then they kind of prefaced that at the end of the film. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to bookend it. It's going to be amazing. Where they flick back to that shot of them when he says like, hey, or something to grab her attention. And they flick back to that shot of them poised on the stairs and the street before he says bye at the beginning of the film. And she turns around. But he doesn't say bye. He fucking goes into this 2-minute diatribe about fate and whatever. It's like, what the fuck?
I'm okay with that.
All you needed to say was bye. It would have been perfection.
That would have worked for me too.
Killed
That would
me.
have worked for me too. But I think what does work about it is that it shows the growth, you know, like they're not children anymore. They've grown up and they've learned, particularly through this trip, they've kind of learned a little bit more about themselves, not just each other. You know, like he's learned that this pining is not, it's just not realistic. Like you said, they're probably never going to meet each other again.
Oh, look, I agree. If they hadn't had the scene at the start of the film, then their exchange at the end would have been fine. It would have been it would have been more than fine. It would have been beautiful.
Yeah.
But because they teased that they were going to repeat it and they were going to have him just say bye.
Yeah.
And they would have exchanged a glance and everything would have been in that glance. And I was like, oh. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I was so disappointed by that. But then she has the beautiful moment with Arthur and when she cries. And I thought that was nice. So
yeah, I think the ending to the film is great. That final scene with Arthur where she just starts crying and it doesn't need to be said. And he not has every right to, but in a film like this, he would be justified to almost be angry in that moment.
He
you know,
is
like
the fucking hero in this movie.
It's such a beautiful.
He lets her do so much, and
Yeah.
there are so many moments where he full credit to, and I can't even remember the actor's name, but full credit to what's his name?
John Magaro.
John Magaro. We should give him credit. Full credit to him. He manages to convey that natural jealousy that anyone in his position would feel.
Of course.
While still being man enough to say, you need to go and meet this guy.
Yeah, I understand why it's important.
I want you to see him. I want to meet him.
Yeah.
Bring him into our lives. And even goes out with the guy.
Yeah.
Despite the fact he's a kind of small, hairy, sweaty Jewish guy, and this is an Asian Adonis.
Yeah.
He still encourages her to go and meet this guy. And I really, really liked him as a character. From the first meeting at the writer's retreat.
Yeah.
Where he's obviously just kind of the nice guy. But through those later scenes where you get those nuanced moments where you can tell that if he had his way, she'd never fucking talk to this asshole.
But you know what?
He loves her. He knows it's important. And so he is trying to be kind of, I guess, the bigger man and be magnanimous and say, I encourage you to go and talk to this guy, even though I know that deep down you have an affection for him that predates me by decades.
You know what? That's why I think this film really works. And that's what I was saying before. I think that this film is sold wrong as a romance because, especially for Nora, it's not. Like he has always pined after her and had these romantic feelings for her. She's forgotten about him for 12 years.
If
Then
he
she's
hadn't
gone and moved
reached
on and
out
got
like a
married,
fucking
forgotten about him
creeper
again.
through Facebook
Yeah.
or MySpace or
Yeah.
I mean, they have a video call over Skype. How good was that?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Back in the
if
pre-Zoom
he hadn't
days.
reached out,
Yeah.
she would never have thought
No,
of him a day in her
exactly.
life.
And
It is not a 50-50
that's why I
star-crossed
think that the
lovers.
film is
It's not.
yeah. That's why I think the film is really about Nora and her journey as a foreigner and kind of letting go of
I
Korea,
would
I
have
think.
liked it if it lent more into that, to be
Yeah.
honest, because while I don't think structurally there's major issues with it, I do think they're pitching it as a Before Sunrise type.
Yeah.
And it's really not. They should have had more of I would have liked more scenes of her with the theater group. I would have liked more scenes of her with her family. One thing we didn't
I
get
agree,
was
actually. I would have liked to have seen more of that. We see
she's
her have
living
a
in New
phone call
York. Her
with her mum.
family live in fucking Canada.
Yeah.
How did that happen? When did she leave them to move to New York to pursue the theater dream, to pursue her dream of winning
Yeah.
initially a Nobel Prize, but ultimately a Pulitzer. That to me was the core of her character, and it
Yeah.
was a little bit
I agree.
shortchanged.
I don't say this often. This movie's like an hour 40. I could have done with another 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Just
give
to
us
fill in
more
that
of
stuff. Yeah.
her with her family. I'm leaving you. I'm going to New York. I'm gonna win the Pulitzer.
Yeah.
I'm going to Broadway. Give us, give us her Broadway debut.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So all in all, how are you scoring Past Lives out of 10?
I'm gonna sound like an asshole, but I'm a 7.5.
No, I think that's fair. I'm an 8. I'm a solid 8. I think on a rewatch it could rise to a 9. Like I said, I feel like I was flattened by expectations because
Yeah,
I was
it really
really
hurt.
I was expecting this to be a 10 and I loved a lot of it. Like, don't get me wrong, I think this is a great movie. But yeah, I'm an 8.
I don't get the people that are saying this is the best thing of the year, though.
No.
It's the things that are good are really, really good, but the things that don't work to me are patently obvious, and I don't get how anyone could just gloss over them.
I think to
It's
me
astonishing
what
to
this
me.
is a great sign of what's to come from Celine Song. I think
100%.
for this to
Yeah.
be a featured debut, I think is fantastic, and I'm looking
Mm.
forward to see where she
Solid.
goes next.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on to our other film, which I was supposed to watch
Yep.
last week and didn't get around
Oh
to.
god, I'm so
I
nervous.
did watch Coherence, and I liked it. I was
Okay.
it was not what I was expecting at all. This is like mumblecore to the next level, man. Like, I actually had to look it up afterwards, so there was no script, which makes sense in
There's
hindsight.
no script. It was filmed in 5 days.
Mm.
I mean, forget about Rodriguez. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
the epitome of
I actually
guerrilla filmmaking.
I actually don't think we should say too much about it to leave a surprise. I don't want to get into spoilers.
I don't want to talk
or
about the
anything.
plot. I just
No.
want to know
I
about
thought from
your
a production
feelings.
standpoint, I found it very interesting to watch because I didn't read about it or anything going in. And even before the mumblecore started, which I'm actually a big fan of, I love that genre of film. I didn't know this was going to be like that. The cinematography is very interesting. It like that was when it first became clear to me that there was no script because it was obvious that there was no camera blocking. And
No,
so
none.
everything feels very natural and real. It feels almost like you're watching more of a documentary than a film at times.
Yep.
Which, given the way that the film goes story wise, is a really interesting tactic. And it's such a shame because the production of the film is why I understand why it wasn't bigger, because there are only a certain number of people who can deal with dialogue like that and cinematography like that. But it's also, I think, what makes this film really work and stand out because it does feel so raw.
Yeah. I mean, I've been championing this thing, as you probably know, for years and years. Ever since I first saw it, I've been telling everyone I could find under the sun to go and watch it because I think it's such an incredible achievement.
I agree, actually. Yeah.
it's, I mean, not just, I mean, yes, there was no script. It was just a bunch of
But
actors
it
that
was
were
plotted
friends.
out. I read this that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Each day, um, Jim and the other writer whose name escapes me, but he plays Amir in the film. Um, they gave the actors, well, this is kind of your impetus for this scene. This is
Yeah.
what your character wants to do, but they
Yes,
had
yeah.
no idea what the other characters were going to do. So if another character, there was, and I'm sort of drawing from documentaries and things off that I know of from watching the extras on the Blu-ray and that sort of thing. But there were occasions where one character had been given the instruction, you need to leave the house.
Yeah.
You have to leave the house. Don't accept anyone telling you can't. You must leave the house. But someone else has been told, you mustn't let this person leave the
Yeah,
house
yeah, yeah, yeah,
under
yeah.
any circumstance
Yeah.
that they can't leave the house. And so you got these wonderful conflicts where that were genuinely real because you had actors that didn't know what was going on. All they
Yes.
knew is that they had to
Yes.
stop this person leaving.
It's almost like they're
Whereas,
playing a murder mystery game where they open the
yeah,
card and it says, this is your motivation, and they just have to roll with it. I agree. I
which
actually think that anybody who's into the art of filmmaking, or even honestly the art of storytelling, I think it's a very interesting watch because it's very collaborative, like you say. Like when the actors are improvising to that level, they are a part of the development of the story.
mm.
And when that many people are doing that, I think that's why it feels so. I honestly can't even describe it. Like, there's no way to describe this movie other than to say I think it should be watched.
I don't know. I mean, did you know going in
I
that there
knew
was
nothing about
any
it going
degree
in.
of unscripting about it?
I knew nothing about it at all going in. You had said the name of it, and you'd said that it had Nicholas Brennan from Buffy in it.
Yep.
So that was all I knew about, because when I was
Okay.
searching for it, there were
Cool.
several movies called Coherence. So I just had to look for the one that was that had him in it, which is from 2013. And yeah, that's all I knew about it. I knew absolutely nothing else. I think I read the description which said, something about 8 friends on the night of a comet's passing meet for dinner, or
Oh, okay.
like it
Oh,
really
really
didn't say
cold.
much at all. So I went in very cold. And like I said, my
Awesome.
first hint that there was no script was actually the cinematography, not even the dialogue. And then after the first few minutes of just people talking over the top of each other and, like a typical kind of, you're like,
Oh, it's very real.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I think for me it works because that's a format that I'm familiar with, Linklater, Gerwig, all those kind of,
Oh yeah.
I watched a lot of those films in my kind of film viewing youth, I guess you would
Yep.
call it, like when I was learning that visual grammar and stuff for film. And so for me, it works. I can see why this film wouldn't have done very well and why maybe people would want to stay away from it. But
See, that's
if you're
I
open-minded,
want
go
you to
check it out.
explain that to me. I do not understand how anyone that watches this wouldn't be blown away,
Well,
and I know people aren't, and it's
I
a
think
complete mystery to me.
I think honestly, people have grown up watching such polished films these days that anything that feels unscripted, even though I look at it and I'm like, wow, that's fantastic, that's so natural, it goes against the visual grammar that we've been taught watching films. So
Right, I get
in
that.
some ways it can feel more false, which I find insane because it's so, just hearing people talk unscripted, it's beautiful, but it's so unlike anything you're used to seeing in a film that
Yeah.
it feels unpolished, even though I think this film is actually very polished. Um, and I also
Did you
think
read that it was filmed in 5
I
days?
did, yeah, yeah.
Fucking hell.
I also think that I read an article the other day that 85% of millennials have subtitles on at all times.
Someone just posted something recently in I don't remember what it was, in some group that I'm on because I live on social media. Um, Someone posted something asking something along those lines. Do you have subtitles on when you're watching
Yeah.
shows and movies? And my response was, well, if it's in another fucking language.
So
But everyone else is responding as though it's the most normal
yeah,
question in the
yeah,
world,
yeah,
and along the lines of, you know, you can tell they're talking about things that are in the English language.
yep,
And
yep.
it's like, how fucking lazy have we become as a
Well,
fucking species that
I
we
do.
can't be bothered even using our ears to hear dialogue?
I do sometimes only because I feel like the art of sound mixing has gotten worse. And particularly like if the kids are in bed, I find that like action scenes are crazy loud, but then I can't hear the dialogue at all. So I'm constantly juggling the
See, that's a
volume.
fault with the actual
Yes.
production.
So
That's not a fault,
sometimes I will
not a
have
failing on
subtitles
your
on, but
end.
I don't do it for everything. But with a film like this, where you do have people talking over the top of each other, I feel like people have somehow I don't actually think it's our hearing that's getting worse. I think it's got to be a bit more of a mental thing where it's hard to follow that many things at once, which
Surely
seems
that's a failing on the part of the sound mixer.
possibly, yeah. And I didn't find that with this film. I actually
No,
found this film was very
I've never
cleverly
watched
done.
this with subtitles.
I don't know how
Let me make it clear.
I don't know how they recorded it. I don't honestly know how they did it because
I will rip the making of
that would be fantastic.
thing off
Because,
the
like I
Blu-ray
said,
and send it to you, because it's you would find it
they
fascinating,
must
even
they must have.
more
Oh,
than me,
well, that's
because
what. Yeah,
you work in the field more, obviously far more than I do. But the description of how they didn't block them ahead of time,
no, no,
but
no,
how they
and that's
managed
clear.
these scenes, and how the cam ops had to predict who was going to be talking, so that they were actually pointing a camera at
Well,
them
and yeah, it's not
to
even just the
capture these
camera.
moments.
The sound
It's
mix is
so clever.
incredible. The sound mix is incredible. I don't know how they did it because, yes, I think that a lot of people are put off by that multiple people talking at once and kind of struggling with focusing our ears on that one important bit of the conversation. I don't know how this mix did it when there was no script and you didn't know who to follow in advance. They must have mic'd everyone individually and are just perfectly writing those tracks as they edit. Honestly, it's a mystery to me, but it's incredible because yeah, I didn't find it hard to follow at all, even though you would expect it to be. So all I can say is anyone who's interested in filmmaking and film production, I think this is a must watch because I think you can learn a lot about telling a story by watching this film. It was
I
a good watch. I'm
I
glad you made me watch it.
genuinely think, and I'm the biggest proponent of El Mariachi, but I think in terms of what you can do with $0 essentially
Yeah,
in a short space of time to create something that is comparable with the best that Hollywood can produce,
yeah,
I think Coherence is a better example than Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi. I
yeah.
genuinely do. I think the small things that he's managed to do in the writing and the editing and the shooting, this film is more impressive. All right, if we leave aside the fact that you're impressed by what a guy could do in his house in 5 days and all of the technical aspects, as a film, forgetting about the budget and the time frame and all the rest of it, did you enjoy it as a storytelling exercise?
I don't know if I can even answer that question because so much of that stuff is what this film is. like it's all improv. It's all and not just improv on the actor's behalf. I'm impressed by, the camera efforts and the sound efforts. Like
Oh, for
everything
sure.
this is like watching the masters play jazz and it's like holy fucking shit, like it's you got the trumpet over there but you got the sax over here and
Yep.
somehow they don't know what each other is doing but they're melding with each other perfectly. So I mean it's really hard to answer that question
The
at
concept
all.
the concept of the story
Yeah.
So obviously, and I think I can say everything I'm about to say without being too spoilery. So 100% we encourage everyone to go and see Coherence. It is a wonderful film. I think we can both
Yeah.
agree on that.
Yeah.
And I'll try not to be spoilery here, but essentially it is about a group of friends who come together for a dinner in the house of one couple within that group of friends at the same time that a comet is passing overhead. The comet passing overhead creates certain timey-wimey spatially anomaly um, weirdnesses,
Yeah.
and some things happen out of the back of that. Anything else is spoilery.
Yeah.
But it is one of those wonderful films where you 100% don't go in expecting to put this on in the background. You need to pay attention
And
the
it's
whole way
short.
through.
It's literally an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not fucking Nolan. You
Yeah.
know, it's you're in and out. It's a normal movie length. But in terms of, I guess, the storytelling precepts that you've got
Yep.
in and of the, oh God, I'm using so many wanky terms. In and of, fuck off. I hate myself right now. The comet passing over the head, the households
Yeah.
concept. Do you think that was well delivered?
I
That's
do.
non-spoilery,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, I do. And again, I think it's hard for me to separate that from the way that the film is produced because so much of that ties into the storytelling. But I think that it all comes together really, really nicely. And I do actually like the narrative structure and the flow and all of that stuff. Yeah, I'm an 8.5 out of 10.
Good man.
Yeah,
Love it.
good film. I'm glad you made me watch it because I think more people should watch it. So there you go.
I will try and rip you the making
That'd
of.
that'd be cool. I'd be really
Um,
curious in that.
I won't give you the full audio commentary, of which there are 2 or 3, but there is a making of, I think, which kind of captures the main gist of it, which I'll send you. And then I'll expect you to come back and up your 8.5 to a 9.5, 10, thereabouts, somewhere in that vicinity.
All right, well there you go. What are we getting to next week, mate? We don't even know, do we?
Are we at Creator yet?
At what?
Creator? When's that coming out?
I don't know when that comes out.
I'm super bloody keen for it.
Me too. Hang on. I'm not doing fucking Equalizer 3, I'll tell you that.
Oh, fuck off, Anton fuckwad. No interest. Zero interest. He hasn't made a good. Everyone raves about training. Training Day was fine, but when fine is the peak of your career, fuck off. No.
Okay.
Not happening.
No, we're not at the Creator.
Ah, balls. Are we going to do shit horror? We can either do shit horror movies and talk about fucking Nun 2 and.
So the Creator's not till 28 September. You know what I reckon we do? I reckon we do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. We could even do that and the Nun 2 if we wanted. They both come out this week.
Oh God!
And then
Fine.
the week after that,
we
finally get Blue Beetle down this way, which I think we should do because I've surprisingly heard good things.
We have to talk about the superhero shit.
And then, of course, the week after that is Saw Patrol, my friend.
Boom! Hashtag Saw Patrol. Billy invented it. You all heard it here first. No one else said it. You've had Barbenheimer. Now you've got Saw Patrol.
All right. So there we go. So next week, I reckon we do some Mutant Mayhem and the Nun 2 if we feel like getting to the Nun 2.
Yep. I'm there for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, there you go.
Can you? When's David Gordon Green's raping of The Exorcist happen?
October 6th, we get that.
Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know why.
Perfect for the Halloween season.
Oh, Jesus. We're going to have to do something where we compare it with a good film because I can't just watch that and have that be the Halloween thing.
Fuck it. Let's do The Exorcist.
Proper Halloween. Maybe we'll do the whole Exorcist franchise.
Maybe we should. Our good friends Carney and Handsome Tom and fuck, why am I blanking on his name? I can't do that. I can't not say their names. Fuck it. Our good friends over at Scaredy Boys recently just did The Faculty, and it reminded me how fucking fantastic The Faculty is.
I love The Faculty.
Me too. Fuck it.
Drugs in Bic Biro.
Yeah. Let's do that for Halloween. Fuck it.
Tell you what. We might need to edit this out because it might not happen. But why don't we do a mega Halloween episode where we get people from like 4 or 5 other podcasts?
I'd
we'll
love that.
Guys. We'll get Gerald. We'll get Drew. We'll get Paul. We'll get everyone on, and we'll do 3 or 4 films in a row.
I'd fucking love that.
Mega episode.
I'd love that. That'd be fantastic. It'll be a nightmare to work out time zones with people from that far across the globe. But maybe we don't all have to be
really
together at the same
Gerald
time.
And Drew, Paul and Skinny Boys are what, Melbourne?
Yeah, they're Melbourne. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all easy. It's really only Drew and Gerald.
Let's work it out. That'd be fucking sick, actually. That'd be really cool. Even if we just do like a dive at a franchise or something and don't go beat by beat, but just talk about, for example, like The Exorcist. Like, that'd be really fucking cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's work towards that.
The Exorcist has to be in there because Gordon Green's doing his fucking horrible thing and it's the best movie of all time. So, boom. Yes.
All right. So let's definitely work towards that.
We'll send feelers out.
All right. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or X. Go and give it to you. at We Watched a Thing. If you want to help support the show, listen to our side project where we're talking perfect albums. We've got 2 to record tonight, which is going to be great. You can do that at patreon.com/We Watched a Thing, and we'll catch you next week.
Give us some nice 5-star reviews. You know you want to. Love you.